Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our October 2025 Idea Jam. My name is Stan Baines, and I'm your chair for this evening and a committee member for the Canadian Network for Imagination and Creativity, or CNIC for short. My fellow friends and creativity members of CNIC that are here with us this evening are scattered about on your Zoom screens. So if you could, committee, please give us a wave. Let us know who you are. Excellent. As always, it is a great pleasure to be back in this hour-long gathering place in our video conferencing world with you. This is our place to share with you different topics, different discussions, and different ideas from our hosts and guests, and then to open the discussions that flow with you afterwards. Our goal here at CNIC is to see creativity and imagination from the different angles that we see life from, recognize the different backgrounds we come from, and to create and foster open, forward-thinking dialogue. It is with this hope that through our discussions that we have at each event that we can expand our minds in new directions, collaborate through idea sharing, create partnerships in our differences, in our sameness, and in our beliefs, and then carry forward those concepts and discussions out into our worlds and our spheres of influence. We want to find and foster our inner and outer creativity through the exploration of our imaginations and ideas, and do this together with each other in our learning and listening space. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge that as a resident of Clarence, Rockland, Ontario, which sits just outside of the east end of the city of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, I'm chairing our meeting on traditional unceded land of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory. I'm thankful for this opportunity to be able to do so this evening. And when looking at our yesterdays with broken hearts, we can see where our tomorrows will go with clearer minds, hearts, and visions. Our journey to healing starts with us and ends in togetherness. We want you to reflect this evening and participate in the way you are most comfortable and make this idea space your own. Our idea jams are our space to learn, explore, and share. We want to hear your ideas through conversation. This is the place where talking your ideas out is what it's all about. Your thoughts, your inklings, your ideas, your everything help keep our space moving forward. So this is your time to shine. Our format here is very simple. Once our hosts guide our discussions for the evening, we will open the floor to you for chats and conversations to begin and just see where our journey will lead us during our time together. Nothing is a bad idea. Every discussion point helps move the idea along. Please take this opportunity to explore and share, as your insights may be the spark that lights somebody else's creativity fire. As you can see, Zoom is our platform for choice. Zoom allows you to participate in many different ways. It has built-in controls that allow you to raise your hand so we can see you when you wish to join in the conversation. You can add things to our chat functions as we've already been doing. This helps keep our ideas and thoughts flowing, and you can share your emotions with the little emotion reactions as well. Share your ideas your way and join in the jam. So for tonight's jam, we're going to be led by Dean Verger and his very special guest. The topic for tonight will be Tales from the Circus. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Dean. Over to you, Dean.
So what they'd say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And here I have to introduce somebody who has a lifetime of experience that is just amazing. So rather than showing you just one picture, I'm going to show you a video, at least for a little while, about a minute of it. And then afterwards, if you want to see more of it, I'll share the link to this video.
Very
And that's how I introduced to you Brad Denis. Brad, take it away.
Well, thank you, Dean. Hi, everybody. Um, I probably could have gone through told you exactly what I was what I was doing in each clip and when. Um, but let's start. I guess let's start with me. I was grew up in Ottawa, small little town, and so when I went to school, I was a very rambunctious kid, very, very hyper. And the way I learned creativity, if you will, was my dad would tell me, people who are bored are boring people. And I'd have to go off and make up my own game of something in the corner or whatever. But anyways, before I go into lots of little details, at the age of 14, I went to Canterbury Arts High School, where when I went into theater after seeing a youth theater company come to our school. And I loved it so much that I actually found out from my mom a couple years ago that I applied without telling my parents. And I didn't know that was like that. I thought I had not told my father, but I didn't tell her either. Anyways, they accommodated me. I went to theater, and there I met probably my longest and bestest of friends, Jim McNabb, who's my theater teacher, and I've known him for over 35 years now. So at the age of 15, he saw how hyper I was. He said, "Go take ballet class." So that's what you got to go do. So that's what I did. And I was ending up doing 10 hours a week of dance while also doing 3 hours a day of theater 5 days a week, plus doing my academics, plus doing my sports. So by the time I was 17, I was swimming in the morning at 6 in the morning, going to do history or economics, flying off to Le Groupe de la Place Royale at the downtown arts court to take dance class, head back for lunch, do some improvisation with a sandwich in the improv league, go do a couple more academic courses, do 2.5 hours of theater. After that, go off to the ballet school and do ballet. And for about good 2, 3 years, my life was very intense like that. And by the age of 18, 19, I'd had my first job as a dancer in contemporary dance. Now, here was what the wonderful mix was that I came from theater, but I had the technique of dance. I also had my athleticism. So when I became a professional dancer, I was used a lot for pas de deux. And this is when I realized, oh, all that wrestling I did in competition at school helped for pas de deux. I never knew that was a crossover. But anyways, I digress. So I followed a career in dance after that. My first contract was in Quebec City. I didn't speak French. I went nonetheless. I think when you are, I think what I do represent is I'm a doer of creativity and imagination. I, I just never question it, just do it, right? Uh, I'm recently going back to school, so I understand the difference between teaching and understanding and being a doer. So I'm more of a doer, and then I'm sharing my experience with you. So let's get back to the career. Um, with this combination of theater and dance, uh, I was able to give more to the creators that I worked with, and they had more options, more choices. And because I had been worked for over 4 or 5 years with a great coach and a secure environment, I was able to open up and let myself go, let my ego go to become something else or become something that might be ugly or something that is not what I want to represent myself. Be at the disposal of an idea, a moment. And I think that is very, very important for anything to do with creativity and imagination is abandoning the self to the moment. And so it's always very interesting to like I'm drawing upon everything that I learn and know from theater to dance to music. but then I have to forget and let go and just be in the moment. Yet I am drawing from all those experiences by letting go of them. It's kind of a moment of embodiment, I guess you might say. Uh, but anyway, so between dance and theater, there was never really a distinction for me because it was all a performance. So for the people who were dancers, they were mostly in one line. Now, when we talk about the performing arts, we're very highly specialized experts in fields. Being working with a circus, there are people that all they do is flip on their back, and they know how to do that 36 times in a row. And that's what they do. That's like talk about specialists. So there's a how do you say me doing theater and dance at the same time help me just think of the performance as a performance. So I went on to do dance and then was how do you say propositioned by the Cirque du Soleil and propositioned by a company in France. I out of the two, I decided to move to France. My wife at the time was pregnant with her first child. We got married. We moved to France, and I was a part of this new company that had, which was really at the top of its game. They were in competition with Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil wanted that choreographer for their show. And he was the guy who I worked with most of my career, consistently with for about 7 to 10 years. And he worked with Jean-Paul Goude, Jean-Paul Gaultier. He worked with musical artists, visual artists, builders, engineers. And he was really well known for the 1992 Albertville Winter Olympics when they first did bungees and flying machines with acrobats and dancers, and it looked like like a Dr. Seuss. People were coming out of the ground, out of these large horns of plenty, with varying heights of what do you call that? Stilts. Um, at DCA, what was so interesting about this group that I worked with is that everybody was on the same level as a contributor to the proposition of that creation. Like I said, the welder, the artist, the costume designer, the accessorist. Um, so that was a beautiful experience. I went on to do my own creations, my own choreographies with Cavalia and Voltige with the casino, other experiences, all in dance and performance and looking at performance as it is, as a performance, not just dance, not just music, not it's just a performance. There's somebody in front of you. So from there, I did Cirque du Soleil, and that experience was another experience where you do 1,500 shows as a performer. So that's a how do you say that's a long-term discipline that you're in one thing and your enjoyment is different. It's every creation, every experience has its different enjoyment and evolution. Um, when it comes to creation periods, there's a magic 3 months to 6 months for performances that we say that is an ideal time. I've done creations that have gone longer than that, and it has killed the heart of the creation sometimes. I know Cirque du Soleil keeps it to a year. Um, Now there's something that's interesting as a performing artist. We have very short-term goals, but the long-term goal is the evolution of that character. That's where we gain our pleasure and joy. That's our space of play. And let's see. So yes, creativity works great for the moment of creation, but it does not apply for application and evolution of a piece. You can't just stay, oh, I have another idea and another idea and another idea. Then there's no consistent thing. You have to always have rules and limitations. Even with the Cirque du Soleil, it's actually really, it's almost the most challenging to work with the Cirque du Soleil because the budget is everything. What do you want? What do you want? A flying carpet? I'll get you a flying carpet. But we often find it's always the most art that I find out of in performance is out of creating something out of nothing. It's what we want to see is the process of the mind that built that accessory or that character. So I might have jumped around a little bit on my biopic there, but in general, I have been a dancer, an actor. I've made my own music. I've directed my own shows. I've had to learn to do my own advertising, photography. Uh, I did a short film. I've done a children's book. And right now, I'm going back to college as a library information technician, and I'm looking to work with the public library because I still want to bring all of that joy of learning. Because for me as a performer, I am constantly learning. Every project is a new educational experience. Really, that's the best thing about my job for the last 35 years has been that. Um,
Brad,
yes,
question.
so if any questions, you have.
Yeah, just thinking back to when I worked with you at the Ottawa Children's Festival a few years back, and you came onto that as a different art form, as a storyteller.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
So you really follow your curiosity.
Yes, curiosity is um is my driving force, actually. And I really give credit to being taught how to learn really well and enjoy my learning. And I
So I
think
can
it really starts from that.
So I can imagine you as a librarian in the Ottawa Public Library system, working with children and telling them stories rather than just reading from the books and animating that all. I'm sure they're going to start telling you no more pirouettes in the library.
Yeah, I hope to bring a little bit of character for sure and some creativity in some of the workshops that we have there for kids and teenagers.
What was it like working with other creatives? Did you bounce ideas off of them?
Absolutely, we bounce ideas off of each other all the time. It's just an open dialogue, really. Um, it depends on where you are. I mean, usually you have to restrict it to a creative group, and then it diffuses down the chain, you know.
When you say
Um,
diffuses it down the chain, you come up with ideas and then you bring in the people who can craft your costumes and other things like that, or
that's right. Okay, so for example, I did a number with a ring that you saw that's on the ground. This number actually started in 1999, and it was a ring that was hung by a rope, and it was supposed to be a window for two Siamese twins. They were the Siamese twins of the freak show circus that was doing in France, and they would just be at the window. But I saw it there; it was drying, and it was already dried, and I started spinning it because it was only so far off the ground, knee height. And so I started stepping through the ring as it was spinning and trying to find all the empty spaces. And then it became a number. Just because because we all worked in the same spot, in the same space, one thing was built for one purpose, turned out to be for another. And then eventually, 2, 3 years later, I was doing it on the ground after the show had been created. And that's a perfect example of DCA, which is décuplé et complice associé.
you
So
were
it's
in the video, you talk with an old French gentleman and you explain some of the countries that you have performed in. Do you
Yeah,
remember those countries?
yeah. So yes, I've been to Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, Vietnam, Australia, New Zealand, uh, Germany, Austria, Belgium, France, Spain, Greece, Italy, Sicily, Morocco, um, Norway, Finland, Estonia, uh, Slovakia, Slovenia, Russia, um, the States, Canada, across Canada, and then across Canada again. Yeah, there might be a couple of countries I missed.
So, dancing. So the very fact that you couldn't stay still, but you were interested in drama. Canterbury, who here wants to just cheer for Ottawa's Canterbury High School, right? Yeah, absolutely. Michael, put up that hand, right? So such art schools are so important, or am I over exaggerating here? What was it? How important
I
was it?
don't I don't think so because, ever since you've invited me onto this platform, I've been trying to think about one of the things that is so important to creativity and imagination, and it's a safe environment. It's really a safe environment that you can let go of your ego and not feel judged or whatever. And Canterbury created that, and it also depends on everybody's personal ego, how much they demand to be able to let go. But yeah, I think conducive to the environment. If something is asked of you, and they build a safe place for you to do it, it can happen. I mean, I've had to do some pretty heavy. I worked for Gilles Maheu, who was back in the 90s, 80s, and 90s. He was a part of Carbon 14, which did a video film for the CBC called The Dormitory or Le Dortoir that talked about the religious schools of not of the indigenous religious schools, but of the religious schools back in the day. And he was a hard political theater, physical theater act, and I had to do a scene where I had to rape a woman, but do it in just the way. And she was all okay with it. She's done these exercises before. But for me, it was very hard. But because it was a safe environment, we were able to work things out. And then you end up talking about it like you are making an ice cream cone. Like, okay, well, we need an image like this to make this type of image. But that safe space is definitely necessary.
Let's open it up. Stan, you have your hand up.
Yep. Yep. Have you found so because you seem to have a very vast array of things that you're doing, like so from like that last thing, something very dark to very animated things, have you found places that you can pinpoint that have been limiting to your creative like to your creativity, like where doing this you find stunts your ability to be creative, or this particular activity or artistic venture spurs it on? Like do you have something where you can kind of where you've got polars?
Polar opposites. Um, I are there, could you just rephrase that first part of the question
Yeah,
again?
so do you find, like, have you found where something has been very limiting to your creativity, like something where
Yeah.
doing this venture limits your ability to be creative?
Yes, I've been hired as a gun for sure. I got hired as a gun for the casino of Montreal, and there I got in. I got in over my head actually. Um, 86 numbers, all about a minute and a half. Had to choreograph them, and there was like five different styles of dance. Had to bring in five different specialists, and I'm working for somebody else who wants something, and I am good enough to be able to build up what we have, But at one point, you can't please everybody all the time, and you just have to let it go. And you know, again, this is where the business side might come in and just let go and say, listen, it's their product, they're paying for it. When it's your company, you can make the choices. And that's true, create with creativity and influence, you do have power on other people's projects. But I think I do rely upon my imagination to still stick to what I want to get across and find an alternate solution. That is really I will go through 15 alternate solutions before I get to that point.
Michael,
You're muted.
we need to hear you, Michael.
Some people like it better before. Brad, the journey you describe is fascinating, and there are so many parallels of discussion we could engage in with about that. But I was trying to think of a single question to ask you that seemed to be a common image throughout your entire journey, and that is a kind of restlessness. You seem to need change more than you need long-term stability. Is it fair to say that one of the threads that have guided your trajectory throughout your life has been a kind of restlessness? Or is that me being too much a pocket Freudian?
A pocket Freudian, that's a funny term. Okay. Um, Restlessness, I don't think so because the first 20 years of my career, I actually just didn't do anything. I was just invited from one place to another, to another, to another. So by the time I got to moving back to Montreal in 2000, um, my career slowed down at that time because my wife had had a stroke and she was paralyzed on the right side of her body and lost her speech. So that changed things a lot. And branched out on my own and was a choreographer. Um, but no, it's not been about restlessness. Actually, it's just I never questioned that, I would just think about the next idea to do something like a like a show. Um, I'm not so much like that now. I'll tell you that right now. I've come to a point where I choose what to invest in and give it my all. Because in my past, I have dipped my toes in too many barrels and only given maybe in the end 80% of myself in retroflexion.
Talking about
Um,
uh,
but it hasn't been restlessness.
different barrels, you were involved in that Volkswagen commercial with
Yes,
the ski. Were you
I was
just a performer or the choreographer? And how
I
did that?
was the choreographer for the Volkswagen. I was the choreographer for Cavalia and for Lotto Quebec. I was the choreographer. Um, the video that you see me running through the fields in France with the white cows,
Mhm.
that's a video that I made with my dancer friend in the company of DCA, who was just doing video camera editing at the end of the 90s. And we won 2 awards with our short film. And it
So
was about a guy who was riding a square-wheeled bicycle, and he gets hit on the head with an apple and discovers the wheel.
neat. Now that 1.5 minute portion of the video that I showed as the introduction to you doesn't have the cows, doesn't have you running through the field with the big hoop
Oh,
and a number of other things, and it doesn't actually show the, uh, uh, well, there's more on it. And I promise to post the video link a little later on, closer to the end of our hour. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer the performance or do you prefer coming up with the ideas for the performance?
yeah, honestly, everybody loves the idea time, it's really great. Um, but that only lasts for so long until you just get up to the point where you have to perform because uh, it's really the idea time, but it can also be like, oh, you worked hard on something and then you feel really, oh, it's gone. But that's all up to people's personalities, how they react to things. I have been taught because I've rinse, repeat. You're okay. Do it again. You're okay. It's okay if you're wrong. You're okay. Do it again. And I got used to that, and it just helps. Like I'm not everybody's like that. A lot of people hold on to their ideas, like it's the end of the world. But rightly so. But still, we got to move on. You know.
Let's go with Gail first and then Stan, okay?
Thank you. And
I-
what an interesting career in life you've had. I'm wondering if you hadn't had that opportunity in high school to be at that art school, where would you be today?
I have no idea. Might be doing sports. Mind you, I didn't do any team sports, but no idea.
Yeah,
No
I think
idea. Maybe sales. God, no, I hate sales.
yeah,
I don't
that's
know. No, I
interesting.
have no idea. Maybe no idea.
Well, just it
Actually,
seems like it's pivotal for you.
it never crossed my mind. I remember somebody reminded me at the age of 11, I did a book report on Anna Pavlova, who was a dancer from the Russian ballet in history. And I had said to somebody that I was going to be a dancer. I don't, and that was somebody who told me, who told told it back to me. But yeah,
No,
I probably
I'm asking because I just wonder about, I mean, I know you say you described yourself as not being restless, but it sounded like you had this an activity level that some people could interpret as other things. And I just think about all the kids who don't have those chances to have art
right.
expression. What
Hmm.
happens to them? And, if you thought you would have veered somewhere
Oh
else.
well, I think they would definitely try and fill the gap and develop any sort of mechanisms that they would, if they have that desire, to use their creativity and imagination, they would try and fill that gap somehow. It might not be as flourishing as the experience that I had. Um, and yes, again, safe environment, and that's where I could go with that, I think. Um, Now you did bring me to an interesting point is my brother is actually an actuary and he was the vice president of Sun Life. He's now retired. My other brother is a master carpenter and I'm the dancer. So we all work with shapes and numbers very, very well. And there you go. And my mother was very, very smart. She skipped 2 grades.
Stan, I think you had a comment you want or a
Yep.
question?
Yeah. Is there any, so out of the vast things that you do, and it's just astounding the things that you've been involved in, where does your passion lie? Like, what would be, if you could single it out, what would be something that you would repetitively want to go back to because your heart yearns for that?
Connection, just connection. Pretty much. It's not because I feel alone. It could be to also share the moment. A moment is even better when you're not alone. It becomes alive. So yeah, and I think people are going to be craving that a lot more than virtual reality coming up in the next 10, 20 years. If they might be, how do you say, gavé, with this generation who had to go through COVID and everything online. I think they're blinded by the computer screen. But yeah, being in the moment, being and sometimes you have to force yourself there. I have to put a costume on to be in the moment. I have to have somebody put on lights. Geez, I'm really demanding. I won't go in the moment unless there's all these people around me. You know what I mean? But what I'm enjoying right now as I hit 55 and change careers is I'm still doing it all the time. All the time. I'm dancing on the porch. I'm creating something. I see a shadow. I think it could be something great for another idea. Right now, I love the storytelling. And when I took up storytelling, I realized this is a whole art. You know, I mean, everything that out there is deserves its proper indulgence and respect, and there's so much to learn. So right now I'm more into storytelling and puppetry and shadow puppetry and stuff like that. Still
Well,
telling the story. And
yeah.
again, the performance is the story. It's always the story. It's ABC, the magic 1, 2, 3. We always talk about that. And it's always like that moment of decision that we want to live together. That's the most important part in performance. It's not the iconic moment and photo that we see on the magazines. It's the transition in between those moments. When you see somebody go from smiling to crying, that transition is remarkable, I find.
Lauren.
Hello.
Hi, thank you all so much for such great questions, and thank you so much for sharing such incredible and insightful set of experiences that are so rich and that I think make us wonder about many questions. One thing that makes me wonder is, when I was a kid, I was kind of like a fat boy, and I was bullied. Then I started taking, martial arts or judo or whatever, and some years later I no longer needed the judo or other arts, but I just was doing it for the pure joy of movement. And I discovered something about movement that I really was not suspecting that would be there. Namely, when you say dance, I guess prior to some experience with movement, I thought that, like a dance is just like, picking up a spoon and going to make a cereal or something, the same kind of movement. But to my great surprise, what I discovered was that, you know, and I was not a professional, I'm an amateur and everything. I just entered the beginning of whatever that world is. But to my great surprise, I discovered that there's an entire world, with its own vocabulary, its own realizations that completely actually restructures the body and the relationship, of the person to the body and to the world. uh, and then on and so you became a professional in this, but then also in acting, which is another world that's like that too, with its own grammar. So tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that, this
Okay.
relationship, and how what you discovered at that intersection, and how that might have transformed your understanding to yourself or the relationship to the world.
Okay. Fantastic question. Fantastic opening. Thank you so much. As a dancer, I also studied mind-body centering and Feldenkrais. And these are actually like you're internalizing and researching your body and recreating new movement to take away old habits and patterns and reimagine your body anew. But with such in-depth work and taking those moments, you've created a new moment in your daily life. You know, otherwise, when I'm working at the library at the Central Experimental Farm, I take the car at this time. I have my coffee at that time. I go at lunch and this and that and that. And I'll do that for 365 days a year and da da da. But when you do something that is a little different, oh, okay. And so yes, I like what you said. You create new habits. The focusing, I was, I had the ultra, um, uh, how do you say? I'm so thankful that for 30 years with different companies, all they do is plow you with specialists, tutors, the top this, the top that, or uh, so we had that. When I was with Cirque du Soleil, I got to do Tuvian throat singing and being able to place our throat in different parts of my the cavities of my face and chest and throat, and that opened up something for me that was incredible. And I started using it as a ritual to be able to get myself into a certain energy zone to be able to perform afterwards. I don't do it all the time, but it was an experience at the time. And it's another practice of me going into another part of me, being creating that moment, imagining who I am. Boom. You know, people, and it's gotten after so many years that I can almost snap my fingers and just let go. and I'm ready to be in the moment for something new.
We have another question.
Yes.
Your hand is up.
So, Brad, I'm in total awe. I got in that moment all your talents. Um, I can't wait to bring my grandchildren to Adesoki to have you read them a story.
Oh, I would love to.
Can you tell us? You mentioned this is a quick question. 1,500 shows with Cirque du Soleil. Is that over a period of time?
Yes, that would be over 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that you were just showered with specialists, et cetera, and they certainly had an impact on your life. Tell me, Canterbury has a wonderful reputation, and I've been blessed to know a few students that have just excelled. What advice would you have for teachers today about instilling what they did in you? Or the other question is, what was it that the teachers instilled in you to get you 30 years later to be so passionate about this with a history of success? So that's two questions you could answer.
They created, again, some teachers I was able to actually address by their first name, which made a huge difference for me as a student at the time. Um, I was able to, they gave me liberty to leave 15 minutes early for something because I was going to something else. And they were aware of what I was doing because they were talking to the other teachers, which I didn't know, but they were like, okay, I mean, imagine now that you could probably just send a chat and go, okay, he's off his rocker. You'll see him in 2 minutes. But um, now, okay, as in periods of time, there's also a cast that has to be set as well. Because the cast of teachers that we had at the time were all opening up the program for the first time. I was the second year. So then for them, there must have been some sort of, extra participation, urgency, something that they were all, let's say, just the involvement of everybody might have been perfect timing. We talk about that all the time with casts. This group of people for this 7 years pretty much built the 25 years around the company. It's just been replacements or redoing or another creation. And you'll see that a lot throughout any business, I think, as well. But
Brad?
that bonding of a cast is what's important for the teachers as well as the students.
Mhm. We have Lindsay who has her hand up.
Hi.
Sure. Hi.
Yeah. Oh, my video's not working. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
that's
I loved hearing you talk about how your movement practices, well, Feldenkrais, which I don't know anything about really, but
okay.
adjusting your habits or shifting your ways and
Yes.
probably
Think
from
differently.
that your perception. And I was curious about your experiences with dancing your concerns or dancing your issues or dancing your personal life,
Ah, yes. Now
especially since you've gone through groundbreaking changes in your relationship in a sudden event, if dance brought you through that at all or things like that.
yes. There is dance therapy. I have done sessions of dance therapy, which was very interesting for me because I was a professional of dance. But most of the people who were there were actually taking therapy and dancing. So it wasn't the same type of thing, but it was so fascinating, the two of us. I had to let go a lot of my uh, inbred tools and inbred tools. How do you say instinctive reactions, and let go of my built professionalism. How do you say my built trade within my body to be able to access my emotions without using them professionally to just be me. And those moments are very precious. Um, they'll sometimes combine that also with drawing and paint and movement. Um, and it's also, again, everybody talks together at the end and sharing how they felt in this moment, in this movement. Mind body centering would be much more focused. They were focusing on like how prehistorically we were built and how the bones are laid apart and certain things related to certain organs, the way they're attached, and further study to uh, probably our emotions in relationship to that. But how do you say? It's practicing emotion in action. And we don't often do it. We often have an emotion after an action. Our emotion is our reaction. We never practice that, but in theater you do. And in these, in these types of cases where we have workshops or therapy or different things or approaches, you have that space. And it is very crucial. Well, crucial. It can be groundbreaking for some people. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen people stop dancing and just go study that because it was so inspiring.
Mary,
Feldenkrais is a technique that's been developed over, I don't know, 50, 60 years, where he's actually helped people who have lost their capacity to walk again, just out of a series of recreating, revisualizing, working their muscles starting from a different point.
and there's another topic for another
Oh, absolutely.
idea jam, using creativity, using art in therapy. But Jessica, you have your hand up.
Hi.
I
My question was around like transition, and I know a large part of working like in the performance industry is transition because projects and shows end sometimes quickly and
Okay.
sometimes
Yeah.
not. So I was curious about if there's been times where you found that transition difficult and how you navigate that.
Okay, yes, that is difficult when the transition is a long period of time. I was lucky for the first 25 years, I had no transition time, really. Um, and what I've noticed, my partner is a visual artist, so she can choose a subject and then redo it and practice it, and then maybe next week try another subject. But me as a performer, it's like, well, that was that idea. Okay, am I just going to go perform for myself, or am I just going to write something down? But one thing that I do like that I've heard from Bobby McFerrin is do a little bit every day. Doesn't have to be a lot, but do a little bit because you do get rusty a little bit. You don't have the same feedback. You don't have the same nourishment because when I was younger, my ego rode upon that as well. And now that I'm older, and a little bit hopefully wiser, it does not ride upon that. For me to feel like, okay, I'm worth it. Let's do this again, you know. Uh, but those long periods, I find it's take yourself back to school, make yourself an exercise for yourself. That's what I'm trying to do for myself. Because otherwise, if I try and do a big a project, I'll never finish it. We need the rules, we need the deadlines, we need the challenges, we need the guidelines. Too much of an open book is no good. So I would definitely say make exercises for yourself in the meantime. And who knows, you might just have a new series.
Now, Stan, we're coming close to the end of the hour. With your permission, Brad, I'll just say
Sure.
I am a big fan of many fields feeding into new projects. So when you talked about dancing, your wrestling informing your dancing, as well
Yeah.
as your acting, informing, so that it all becomes a performance. But wrestling and dancing coming together, isn't that absolutely amazing? It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be synergistic. So that's one thing I wanted to say. The other thing is, when I tried to put the URL into chat, the chat accepts 1,000 characters. The URL exceeded that. So instead,
Oh,
I'm going to give people this simple instruction. If you want to see 6.5 minutes of Brad being whimsical and wonderful, it's on vimeo.com, and look for Brad Denis promo net. And I'm putting that in chat, so it's really easy. There you go. And just type in Brad Denis promo net. There's his spelling of his name. And then you can watch the full video, including the horses, the 200-foot video screen in the background, him running through the field with a metal hoop. And with that, let me turn it over to Scenic's official host, Stan Baines.
So I just added the link to the user page so that one,
oh yeah.
so that way then you can find the video. It'll be the one on the right. So thank you very much, Brad. That was very interesting this evening to see just kind of what things you're up to. And thank you, Dean, for bringing him along and for hosting our guest. This was an absolutely amazing night, and I thank you all for being able to share in that with us. So we want you to know that Scenic is socially connected. Check out our website at www.canadiannetworkforimaginationandcreativity.com. Now with our updated Idea Jams list, we have more information on links for the Idea Jams bios, view our past Idea Jam sessions in the chats, and other helpful information about us and what's coming up. So you can also see our 2024 and 2025 Idea Jams that are now online on YouTube. Look for us under Canadian Network for Imagination and Creativity to see our past Idea Jams right at home or out on your phone on the go. So as we close for the evening, I want to thank Brad again. I want to thank Dean, and I want to thank all of you for making this past hour a wonderful time to be here. And this is something that we always look forward to each time we meet. Be back with us again next month for our next Idea Jam in November on Thursday, November 20th. And as a reminder, all of our Idea Jams take place on the third Thursday of the month. Please mark your calendars. On behalf of all of us here at Scenic, thank you again for spending your Thursday evening with us. Thank you for sharing your creativity and imagination with us. We're glad you are here, and we look forward to seeing you again in November. Have a great night, everybody, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week.